Benign tumor will grow only where it happens to be.
What we know about melanomas is that when you take them out, when it shows up on your leg or your arm or somewhere else, you have to excise them very deeply. Take a big, huge chunk of flesh, because this is your only chance of curing them. If a few cells get lopped off and get into the bloodstream or the lymph stream and get lodged somewhere, in the lungs especially or in the brain, then it's almost like a death sentence.
Mel's options were few. She could choose an experimental treatment and risk being lobotomized, or she could opt for no treatment at all.
Mel was very concerned about the invasiveness of the biopsy. The chemotherapy, the what we call biochemotherapy and other treatments for melanoma have significant side effects. Monday or Tuesday the next week, I called two friends, a friend Uta, who was a naturopath and massage therapist, and another friend, Callista, whose father used to be a pharmacist and now owns a health food store.
She called me on the phone and she said, "I'm really in trouble. Will you help me?"
I went through periods of just terrible sobbing. I looked at the protocol and cried before I showed it to Uta.
And I read all the risks in these papers involved, and I said, my God, trash the stuff.
Ben would come home from his job and try and comfort me, and we'd talk some more, what should I do, and he kept trying to convince me that I could do both.
You can read about people doing alternative medicine, but I found in myself the minute that it really counted, now it matters. I fell back on the tried and true in my thinking and my feelings, right? And I thought, oh my God, she's going to kill herself.
He was worried. He was frightened. He wanted the best for Mel and for them, and he didn't want to lose his wife.
I ultimately decided that I did not want a brain biopsy and that I didn't care if it's melanoma or not. I wasn't willing to gamble with not being able to walk and talk after the operation.
Mel had this idea, and so I was happy to go along with it and break out of that fall back on the tried and true.
I came over to their house and I just brought a bag of stuff. I brought some Essiac.
Growing up on a farm, I've always been into herbs and flowers and good eating and so forth, but I did not know about Essiac tea, which is an old Ojibwe Indian cure.
The Essiac formula is made of 4 herbs: sheep sorrel, burdock root, turkey rhubarb root, and slippery elm bark.
It is an herbal remedy that you make a tea from, and you drink. I drink 4 to 6 ounces a day. And from the day Callista came, I've been drinking Essiac tea every single day. At the time that we made the diagnosis, I put her on dexamethasone, which is a very potent steroid. And what that does is it decreases swelling in the brain. The second medication was Dilantin, which is an anticonvulsant as a precautionary measure.
Desperate for some direction, Mel took solace in nature.
We were wandering around in the woods, and I discovered this hole in a tree, in a big hemlock. And I looked up the tree, and there were holes all through this hemlock, and some of the branches looked half dead. And I walked around the other side of the tree, and that side of the tree was perfectly healthy and perfectly beautiful. And I think it was an epiphany at that point, and I thought, that tree lives with cancer. That tree could die at any minute, but look at this side of it, and it's still very healthy on the other side. And that's when I started to think that, maybe I can work with this. And I thought, if you had a dragon coming to your chimney, breathing fire down your chimney, would you go out and try and slay it? Or would you try and make friends with it and live peacefully with it?
Mel made a bold decision. She would leave behind the ways of modern medicine and instead embrace an alternative approach to healing. Mel's fresh approach to cancer led her along a new path, away from conventional medical treatments and their bleak prognosis toward so-called alternative healing methods.
When she came back to see me again, she said that what she had decided to do was to try Ayurvedic medicine.
We made an appointment to the Maharishi Ayurvedic Clinic.
Mel first came as an outpatient. She mainly complained that she couldn't think straight and she couldn't put things together in her mind, brain fog basically.
Instead of being frightened at this Western medical doctor, he was very calm, and it was a very calming environment.
We looked at her from the Ayurvedic perspective as well as doing a Western analysis of her. We looked at her tongue, we checked her pulse, we looked at her fingernails, we looked at the shape of her physiognomy. All the different parts of her make a difference.
Glaser was the first doctor that looked at Mel. He really looked at her. He could have told you the precise hue of her fingernails. He could have told you a lot of things about her from that first gaze. A hard stare.
The diagnosis there was not brain cancer or metastatic lesions to the brain. It was, I had AMA in my strata. And I thought, oh, how wonderful, you know, that sounds so much better than brain cancer.
The Ayurvedic understanding of cancer is that it's a cell that's lost its dharma. That means it's lost its direction in life. Why that distortion of intelligence happens is that the flow of intelligence is blocked. We can actually say physically within the cell. Ayurveda has an ancient name for this, and that word is ama. And ama means uncooked, unripened products of digestion or metabolism. And this is exactly how we understand that from the Western physiological perspective, that the materials of our metabolism get stuck as a residue within the cell. And that's what makes that cell take on a carcinogenic potential. I gave her treatments of what we call behavioral tonics, tonics that you actually perform instead of swallow. For example, I said, go out and play, you should sing, you should laugh, you should dance. And then I prescribed a program of doing yoga, doing respiratory integration exercises.
I gave it time, and I did more meditating every single day. I meditated for sometimes 4 to 6 hours a day, listening to the Ayurvedic music and eating basmati rice and asparagus for my pitta dosha, and doing all the things that